Good evening. My name is Andrea Pontiroli. I'm the Deputy Head of Mission of the Delegation of the European Union to Israel. So, Erev Tov Lekulam, good evening everybody, and I'm really happy to be here with you tonight at the Jerusalem International Writers Festival, which, as you know, is an event that celebrates literature and exchange of ideas. First of all, I would like to thank Shaannim for hosting us and extend a warm welcome to our guest author, Mikołaj Lozhinsky. I asked a Polish colleague to tell me how to pronounce your name. I hope I didn't mispronounce it too much. So tonight we'll explore your new novel, Shtrammer, published in English as My Name is Shtrammer, which is a deeply moving story about a Jewish family living in pre-war Poland. With honesty and sensitivity, you bring us into the world of this family, their routines, the arguments, the ambitions, and all this is set against the growing tensions in Europe during 1930s. The story is beautifully told, and as one reviewer put it, readers don't want the book to end, they want to keep living in the Shtrammer's world. But Shtrammer is more than a family story. It brings to life the reality of Jewish life in that time and place, both the vibrant culture and the growing threats. Through the life of Nathan Shtrammer, we see a community full of war and struggle, whose life is eventually shattered by the rise of Nazism. The family journey from everyday life in pre-war Tarnow to the city's ghetto, from which tens of thousands of Jews were deported, offers a lens into a history that we must not forget. To be sure, Shtrammer is not a book about the Holocaust, but it foreshadows the catastrophe that is about to befall European Jewry, who makes the book particularly poignant for us Europeans. Because Europe history cannot be told honestly without acknowledging the persecution, the discrimination, and the violence the Jewish communities faced for centuries, culminating in the Holocaust. Mikołaj Lozhinsky's novel reminds us of that history, and it prompts us to ask what it means for us today. Sadly, anti-Semitism is not a phenomenon of the past. We've seen its resurgence across the globe, including in Europe, and not only in recent months, but over the last years. October 7 and its aftermath were a turning point, for sure, but the warning signs were already there. Old prejudices are finding new voices, and these demand vigilance, courage, and education. And the European Union and its member states are committed to acknowledging this dark page of the history and to fight anti-Semitism in every form it takes, while promoting Jewish life in Europe. Literature can play an important role in this effect. Books like yours help us remember the richness and the complexity of Jewish life in Europe before it was torn apart. They remind us that the Jewish community were not just victims of history, they were people with full lives, families, dreams, and challenges. And stories like this push back against simplifications. They help us see people, not just events. In this way, literature does not just preserve memory, it helps us spot warning signs in our own time. It teaches empathy and offers a call to action. So let us honor the power of literature, not just to teach us about the past, but to help build a future root in compassion, courage, and justice. And now I'm delighted to introduce our guest for this evening. Please join me in welcoming author Mikołaj Lozhinsky and his interviewer, Shiry לב-ארי. תודה רבה.
Thank you very much for your words. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to the International Writers Festival, supported by the Jerusalem Foundation. This event is part of a collaboration to promote contemporary European literature between the European Union and the International Writers Festival at שאננים. And we would like to thank also to the Polish Institute, which supported this event. So thank you and good evening. Good evening to you, Mikołaj Lozhinsky.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
May I introduce you briefly?
Maybe first
Yes.
we can mention that also the translator
Yes.
is here, and
the translator of your
publisher.
novel, which just translated into Hebrew lately, רינה בודנקין, and is the publisher, Israel Kərmel, the Israeli publisher. I will mention them later. So Mikołaj Luzhinsky was born in 1980 in Warsaw. He is a respected writer, photographer, and screenwriter. He studied sociology in the Sorbonne in Paris. His two previous novels have been translated into many languages and have won literary awards in Poland. His novel Shtrammer from 2019 has just been translated into Hebrew lately and is published by Kərmel Publishing House, translated by רינה בודנקין. Yeah, you deserve it. Shtrammer was chosen as the book of the year by two important magazines in Poland and won literary prizes, and the rights, the translation rights, purchased by 17, I believe, publisher houses across Europe. So it's a big success, and we'll talk about it soon. Shtrammer tells the story of a Jewish family between two world wars, and it's taking place in a city, Tarnów, which is found in the southern of Poland. The parents, Nathan and Rebecca, and their 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls, living together, sleeping, breathing, playing, fighting, and laughing in the same one-room apartment on the ground floor on a nondescript building on Goldhammer Street. And the book describes with great wisdom, I would say, and great humor, the character and the mind of each member of this family. Starting with the father, rough Nathan Shtrammer, who is just looking for an opportunity to get rich and to prove to the world how worthwhile he is. And his wife, Rebecca, she is Rivka? Yeah. You say the Hebrew name, Rivka? Yeah. You can say it here. She is a very kind and tolerant woman. Rudek is the smart and successful eldest son of Rivka and Nathan. And he has 3 younger brothers. Their name are Heshio and Salek, or Salek and Heshio. And the little small brother, Nosek, who is not told anything, and he has to figure for himself what they are talking about. And there are 2 more sisters. Rela is a beautiful teenage girl, and Vela, who already wants to grow up. And the novel follows the family's history against the background of social and political changes, which reach their peak with the Nazis' occupation of the city. It describes everyday life, economic difficulties, friendship, and also tension between Jewish and Catholic people in the city, the generation gap between parents and their children, and this longing for another, maybe better world, usually represented by the idea of America, the big America over there. So maybe this would be my first question to you. The novel emphasizes the Jewish life in Poland, and it describes a full and vibrant life of Jewish people. And it not deals only with the big destruction of the place. I mean, the novel does grace with the Jewish life in Poland. That is to say, Polish Jewry is not only the Holocaust, and there was a whole life before it and after it. as our friend said earlier, it's not a Holocaust novel. Can you tell a bit about the background of the writing this novel? And this perception of Jewry of Poland.
I've been thinking about this, about the Strzemmer siblings in the pre-war Tarnów for a long time, because it's a novel, it's a fiction, but loosely inspired by the fate of my grandfather, Salomon Strzemmer, and his siblings in the pre-war Tarnów. But I wasn't ready to start writing until I had children of my own. And at the beginning, I only had one scene in my head, a scene that takes place on the beach. This is at the end of the book, actually. And I clearly needed 8 years to get there. The first 2 years, I buried myself in various archives. In Tarnów, of course, in Kraków, Warszawa, Lviv, and Paris. I was reading documents, testimonies, old books and old newspapers. And I discovered, I did not find much about my grandfather and his siblings, but I discovered fascinating word. So with many, I mean, because I think that I had a very stereotypical image of pre-war Jews in my head, like from the black and white photographies, Orthodox Jews. But what I discovered was full of color, a lot of different, in Tarnów, a lot of different Jewish parties, Jewish organizations, I mean, from believers in God to believers in communism. And the most important for me was that my characters be real and complex. And I wanted to describe their daily life. School troubles, fighting between brothers, relations between parents, relations between siblings, fights in the courtyard. I mean, plans for I wanted to describe them with their wants and dreams, their plans for the future, and their senses of humor.
They have their own language and their own jokes, these brothers and sisters.
Yeah, I mean, how could the Strzemmers know they were living in the shadow of some significant events to come? I mean, they were living it as a daily life. And I wanted this novel to be a novel about life, not about death.
Yeah, this is the strongest point of this novel, the life, the vibrant life. But what did you use to build their character? Because they are so real. And when you're reading this novel, you feel that like you are a friend of them. You like them. You don't want them to be hurt. You really connected with these characters. So what helped you to build the character in that way?
I don't know, maybe my experience also with my family, like people around me. I think it's my most I have 2 brothers. I think it's my most personal book, even though it's a fiction.
You mentioned.
I know. I just wanted to add one thing. Actually, my purpose was I wanted the reader to feel home with Strzemmers till a point that they forget what awaits them. The reader might forget what awaits them.
You mentioned your grandfather, and the story is based on his history, family history, and his mother and father and brothers and sisters. And he had the family name of Stromer, and you wanted to give life back to this name, to these family names, which means strong,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Stromer is strong.
Yeah, well, not really, because after all, it's a work of fiction. So at the beginning, I wanted to give my characters different name, because it's only loosely based on life of my grandfather and his siblings. But then, me and my older brother Paweł, we gave an interview to Newsweek Polska about what it's like to be Jewish in Poland or to have Jewish roots in Poland. And this interview was shared on several nationalists' websites. And I found it there with some, 500 comments posted below it, which pretty much fell into one of two categories. First, quote, "Get the fuck out to Israel," and, well, here I am. And second, "Tell your real names." And the second idea actually inspired me. I thought, why not? My grandfather's surname, Stromer, I've always liked it. It means strong, healthy. And it disappeared along with almost the entirety of the Jewish world in Poland after the World War II. So now it's back to stay in my book. So even Polish anti-Semites had a positive role in the creation of this novel.
Can you tell a bit about your grandfather family and how did you notice this story? How did you learn about his personal life?
Well, he died when I was 4, so I didn't really know him very well. Only
so you heard the story from your father or mother?
Yeah, from my mother, because it's
on your mother's side. Yeah.
No, from my father, because it's on paternal side.
Yes.
Yeah. So I only knew one thing, is that they all survived the Holocaust, each of them in a different place. So, like, when I was a child, in my imagination, they were like Superman, this kind of. But later on, I read a lot about the past, and I understood it was much more complex. And anyway, that's all I knew. And
you can tell about the way they survived,
yeah,
and
each of them, like
lived after the war.
Yeah, my grandfather survived in Paris, in France. He was member of La Résistance during the war. 2 of his brothers survived in the Soviet Union, and the rest in Poland, hiding with false documents. And then they all met after the war in Warsaw, and each of them had a different family name. So Stromer was gone. But yeah, but I remember that. Yeah, thinking how it was possible. 6 million people died, and the 6 Stromers survived.
Yes, and even though one of them was thinking about Zionism or coming to Israel, they were communist, socialist, and very Poland.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. Yeah, actually, I can tell you how I started thinking about this is the first question that I didn't really answer the way I should. Actually, I did not think much about the history of my family until I went to Paris to study, and until I left Poland and went to France. And during my studies, I had a job as an assistant to a blind psychoanalyst. And I remember at the university, there was a notice board, and a friend of mine found a little announcement there saying a blind psychoanalyst is looking for an assistant. And he said, you should try. And I said, no, I don't think so. Because first of all, I'm tall. Then I speak French with a strong Polish accent. Well, she would be afraid of me. But he said, go on and try. So I tried, and it was really great. We get on well very quickly from the very beginning. And I used to work for her. It was always on the first days. And I remember first day, she showed me the desk where we were going to sit to work together, because I was going to read her out loud books, newspapers, letters, and I was also going to write for her. It was always 2 hours and a short 10 minutes break in between. And I remember this first day, we started drinking coffee, and she said, can I ask you something? I said, yes, of course. Can you tell me what is the story of your family? So I said, my grandparents were Polish Jews, pre-war communists. Then my grandfather went to Spain to fight in the Civil War for freedom and democracy. Then he was in La Résistance in France. Then after the war, they came back to Poland to build some sort of communist paradise. Yeah, because they were pre-war communists. Then there was 1956 revolution in Hungary, and my grandfather was there in Budapest as a press correspondent, so he saw this revolution and he cut off the ties with the Communist Party. Then 1968 in Poland, huge anti-Semitic campaign. Then my parents were in the democratic opposition. Then I was born in 1980, 1981 martial law in Poland. Then 1989, the end of communism. She did not comment it at all. We came back to work. Next week, coffee break, same situation. She asked me, I was wondering, she said, I was wondering, can you tell me what is the story of her family? So I was really surprised, but okay, I said, Polish Jews, pre-war communists, La Résistance, Communist Paradise, 1956, 68, martial law, the end of communism. She did not say a word. We came back to work. And this situation happened for the third time, fourth time, fifth time, and I remember the sixth time. I was on the bus going to work with her, and I had my family story so well prepared in my head, because I was sure that she was going to ask me about it. So we are working, coffee break. I'm ready to give my performance. But she didn't ask. And me, from this very moment, I started to think about this family story, also asking myself, what was more difficult for this woman to understand, a complicated family story or a complicated history of my country, Poland? And I think this is exactly what this very smart woman wanted me to think about.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for it. Your grandfather is based on the character of Salek, one of the brothers that was very intellectual. He had some intellectual talent, and you described how he and the younger brother become close to the Lenin and Trotsky ideas, close to them.
Well, because there's one thing I think we should mention, that today we often group fascism and communism together because both left millions of victims. But Shtrammer's, I think, before the war, like in 1920s, for my grandfather and his brothers, communism was also a path to assimilation. From, I don't know, fifth-class citizens, they could become part of the first class, equal. Yeah, also the ideas of social justice, equality, it resonate very well with young people. So, and they did not know where it would lead to. And here's the difference also between communism and fascism, that fascism openly promised hell and it delivered, and communism meanwhile promised heaven on earth, but also turned out to be that vicious.
You mentioned the process of interrogates. You sat in archives in Warsaw and Krakow and Paris and Tarnów, of course, and you learned. You watched documentary films from that period, and listened to testimonies of Holocaust survivors. What did you learn the most from that research you made?
I mean, I've learned a lot of details that I'd used in my books, but I think
of
it's
course,
not that
but
important.
I'm asking about some insight.
Yeah, so I think that I understood one important thing for me, is that I understood that we are smarter than previous generations only in that we know what happened to them, and they didn't know their future. Just like we don't know ours.
So we are not so smart as we think we are?
Yeah, I mean,
probably. The novel bring, yes. Would like to add something?
Yeah, just one thing. I remember when I started writing Shtrammer in 2011, I was worried that I would not be able to realistically describe young radicals, especially young nationalists. So I was really worried and afraid that they would turn out to be artificial in my book. Because at that time Poland was so pro-European, pro-Western, and so on. But then the reality of the last few years came to my rescue, and now the sight of nationalists marching through the cities of Poland is not surprising to no one anymore. So sometimes I think that now we are closer to the times that I'm trying to describe in Shtrammer than we were in 2011.
Yeah, we are closer to these times.
Yeah. As if the time was going backwards.
Yes. Your novel is bringing the Jewish life back to life. And Tarnów was a home for a very the vibrant and diverse Jewish community. The Jewish people were almost a half, 42% of the population before the war, of course, and they had a very diverse ideologies, like you mentioned. Some of them were Orthodox Hasidics, and some of them were Zionist and Bundist, but maybe just few of them survived the Holocaust. And I would like to ask you, did you have this feeling of a mission when you wrote this novel, of remembrance or commemorate the history?
No, not at all. I just wanted to tell the story of the siblings without thinking about mission. I was so fascinating about this time and the siblings that no mission.
We would like to say that this novel is one of two novels. There is a sequel that was published in Poland and also in other languages. Yeah. Because this novel is ending in the beginning of the World War II, and the second novel deals with the sisters and brothers where they and their lives during the war, and maybe after the war. Some of the audience already read it. I mentioned it because I asked you about the mission, but yeah. I believe you didn't have the feeling of a mission.
Yeah, because maybe I did not have this feeling.
But it's an outcome. Yes.
Ah, yeah. Because writing Stammer and also reading the documents and books and so on, I've learned a lot. Because actually, well, first of all, for quite a long time, I was not aware I was Jewish. I mean, I remember when I was 7 years old, I grew up in a working class district in Warsaw called Czerniaków. And one day I played football with friends in the courtyard, and then I came back home and I said, "Mom, there's one Jew in the courtyard." And she looked at me and said, I think there's probably two. And I thought at first it was something bad, because in the courtyard we used to play a game called Cities and States. I don't know if you know it. You play with a knife. First of all, you draw a circle, then you divide the circle into parts for each player, and then
you enlarge it.
Yeah, then every player is taking turns throwing a knife.
Yes.
And when the knife hits let's say a little stone and bounces off, meaning you lost, we called this little stone a Jew. So when my mom told me, I was sure that nothing good was going to come of it, But then my parents later they told me, "Look, but it's so great. So many talented people were Jews: Einstein, Rubinstein, Steven Spielberg. Look, it's fantastic." But but I remember thinking to myself, "Okay, if being Jewish is so fantastic, so why didn't you brag about it before?" Because I think that for a child, it's quite hard to get just this cold fact, this cold information, because that's all I got actually. Because most of the Jews, Polish Jews who had survived the war and did not leave Poland afterwards, were communists, like my grandfather. So I mean the majority. So they broke from Jewish tradition, language, culture, religion, of course. So they did not pass this heritage on to their children, meaning my parents, who had nothing to pass on to my generation except this cold fact that you're Jewish. So I had to find out for myself what it really means. And now, after writing Strammer and the Strammers, the second volume, now to me, I consider my Jewishness as a neat bonus to my Polishness.
So what is the relationship you have today with your Jewish identity? What does it mean for you now? The writing about the history or
I think it's something like a bonus, really. Something
like what?
Bonus.
Bonus.
Bonus, yeah.
Yeah. And maybe the humor you use is a kind of maybe a Jewish humor, because you use sometimes I feel that you use the humor in this novel as a means to deal with difficult issues. For example, the scene that the Jewish teacher Wertel is humiliated in front of the school principal, and the text is so funny, so it may be softening the materials, the difficult materials, which is anti-Semitism. So, and I think there's a big sense of humor in this novel. Do you think you use it, or is it a natural choice?
Well, it's really hard to answer, because I used it, of course, but it's also my intuition. No, it took me, after 2 years in the archives, then it took me 6 years to write it. And I always write very slowly. And actually, I broke all my rules about writing, because my 2 previous novels, their style was very different from Strammer. I used to write very concisely, the fewest characters, the shortest sentences, the short books, and so on. And I tried to, because I was always thinking that less is more. And I was trying to write Strammer the same way, but it did not work. It felt artificial, and the months went by and I had several false starts, and only after I broke all my rules concerning writing, so I started longer sentences, a lot of characters and so on, that was the right choice, actually.
So you find
the right form, yeah.
The right form and the right voice, because it's the little ironic voice, and so not a tragic one.
Yeah, so it was just intuition.
Yes. Talking about the Jewish identity, I wonder how is it to be a Jew after October 7th in Europe, in Poland? With what materials do you deal with? What phenomena are you involved with, if at all?
Well, in Poland, it's a bit different than in the rest of in the Western Europe, because we are very much we are emotionally involved in the war in Ukraine. So this is much closer to us, and this is what we are thinking about. And otherwise, Poland is very safe for Jews. I never had any troubles.
And public discussions or academic discussions about the war in Israel, you're not involved with?
Well, at the beginning, people were had a lot of compassion for for the Israelis, the hostages, the families, and now people are very compassionate with the people from Gaza as well. Yeah.
So this is no difference from Poland to the rest of Europe in that sense, that the empathy is going to people from Gaza mostly.
Yeah, now, yes.
Yes, and yeah. I asked you before our conversation here if you think that the novel is going to be adapted to a film or a TV series, because it's very soon to be some kind of filmatic or TV series.
Yes, well, sooner or later, I think it's going to be adapted. I'm negotiating now. We will see. We will see.
Negotiation with American studios.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a secret. You can't tell about. But don't be surprised if you see it on Netflix in 2 or 3 years. What are you working about these days? Do you write? Do you have some other projects?
I'm traveling quite a lot because of the translations of Stammer. Last week I was in Torino. And when I'm home in Warsaw, I started working on the 3rd volume, which is taking place during the communist time. But I'm at the third volume. But I'm at the very beginning, so we'll see. And I always write very slowly, so it will take time.
So it's supposed to be a really family saga, if you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is it also based on real characters from your family?
Yes, because it's the continuation.
And they live around you, right?
In my head. Yeah.
In your your head, because your father's brothers and sisters are alive. They live in. No. Not anymore. Yeah. So they live in your head, and the family stories and family memories.
Yeah. Well, yes. I grew up. Sometimes I wonder why this family story became my topic, and maybe because I grew up only with my mother. So because my parents divorced when I was 4 years old, 3, and maybe that's why I needed to create a big family, because this is what I did not have as a child.
Yeah, it was my feeling that the big happy family, even though the times are difficult and the conditions of their lives are very difficult, they are very vital and happy family. And after
this was yeah, well, to me it's a book about family intimacy, family love, relations between all of them, and the family relations take center stage in this novel.
And you write very sincerely about teenager issues like sexuality and growing up and fantasies, and yeah, a lot of tzures in Yiddish. It's yeah, a lot of troubles of teenagers. Yes, but it seems that the life with their Catholic friends are good, not so bad. Even though the political changes and the social changes, there are some friendships that still strong.
That's how it used to be in Tarnów, and maybe in whole Poland before the war. I mean, it was in the 1920s, relations between Jews and Poles were quite good. Then it changed at the end of the 1930s.
Okay. Maybe here there's a question or two from the audience before we are getting to the end of the conversation?
I just wanted to mention one more thing, that today in the audience there are two, actually here we are, there's one Shtrammer, but there are two others as well.
Strummers?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't know if we are family or not. But
There's
yeah.
Israeli strummers.
Israeli strummers.
We're probably family. No choice. You're family, yeah. You're from Tarnov? No.
My family is close.
He's also, his grandfather was born in Yamasa. Okay, so it's not, you can read everything. I believe that probably all of them eventually will find the common ancestor. Yeah, we need to dig.
Okay, so I would like to thank you very much,
Thank you
Mikołaj
very much.
Luzhinsky, for this conversation, and to thank you to all of you. And you are invited to join us to the other events this evening. And thank you again for the Polish Institute for supporting this event, and the Jerusalem Festival, of course. Good evening.